The Indy 3 is finally here. It literally just arrived today, half an hour ago. It's still the morning time, so I'm not quite warmed up for the day for recording, but we gotta hop on here and open these up because it launches on July 30th, and we gotta shoot all the content, all the videos and stuff, so we're gonna do the unboxing. And I love doing these unboxings first because they're just fun for me to open up cool shoes and boots, and like I'm not the most reactive guy in the world, but it's still a way for me to show you guys some of the passion I love and some of the things I love about boots and products and stuff like that. And just so you guys are aware, the way that this launch is gonna go is it launches on the 30th, but if you're on the limited edition email list, we're gonna give you guys that are on that list a day's head start on everyone else in the public launch, so that you can make sure that your sizing's correct, you got all your ducks in a row, you know exactly what you're buying, how you're buying it, all the internal components, even before the cut in half happens. So the email schedule is gonna be the 25th is gonna be like the first look. Probably you're seeing this at the same time. I think it drops the same time. The 26th is the how to wear. I'm just gonna wear like 3 or 4 outfits to show you how I'd wear these. People seem to like that. You know, sometimes it's hard to style really wacky boots, especially like the Indy series where they're just over the top. 27th, we're gonna do the sizing guide because this is built on a different last. And 28th is the reminder for the early access that launches the next day, which is the 29th, where everybody on the limited edition email list, links in the description if you wanna get on that, gets early access 24 hours to get your orders in. Because in the previous years, we've done it just an hour early access and it just is complete chaos. It's Nick's site crashes, I think I don't remember if it crashed last year, but we've crashed it several times, and people get upset because they want the early access and then they get sold out, and then people understandably get upset. So we're gonna give you guys 24 hours this time. And then by the 30th, that's the cut in half review and the full public launch. And then hopefully they sell out some point after that. And I like doing it this way because buying handmade boots is a disaster. If you don't know what you're doing and it's the first time you're buying a pair or you've never worked with the brand, it can be quite the disappointing thing when you wait 6 months for a boot and then they don't fit you. And so that's why we do these little emails throughout the week of the launch to make sure you guys have everything you could possibly need to make sure these are gonna fit you and that you know what you're getting into. Because like you've seen on this channel, like 4 out of the 6 really nice boots that I bought don't fit me. They fit me well enough, but they don't fit me so well that I want to wear them all day, every day. And so that's why we do the sizing guides and everything. And and thanks to the Morning Dram for sponsoring this video. If you don't know who the Morning Dram is, they make the world's most unique coffee, in my opinion, because they take coffee beans and they age them in ex-whiskey barrels and spirit barrels. And what that does is it doesn't infuse the alcohol, so it's not an alcoholic coffee, but it infuses the flavor and the essence of that whiskey or whatever spirit it is into the coffee beans. Not only do you get the coffee flavor, but you get little hints of aroma and flavor of the whiskey. And the cool thing is Tommy, he's a fan of the channel, he's a big boot nerd, recently picked up a pair of GPSs after we talked about him as my favorite sneaker of 2022. And there's a reason that you see the Morning Dram on the channel more than any other brand. It's because you guys like them, so you support them, so they do more videos, exposing it to more people. And so it's just one of the more fun and successful sponsors that we've ever done. And so thank you guys for supporting them and considering checking them out. And one thing that Tommy said that you guys mentioned in the comments of the orders is that you guys like buying these for gifts. Instead of doing like wine for somebody as a gift, giving them this is not only just a new experience, but you can give them everything they need to try it out in one single kit. So check out the Morning Dram via the link in my description, and thank you guys for supporting them, and thanks again to the Morning Dram for sponsoring this video. That's kind of the preliminary information, everything you need to know. So now let's start going through what is the Indy series if you guys don't know, because this is honestly one of my favorite parts of like the design process, is showing and explaining how we started with the concept and how we ended up with all these different iterations all the way to the Indy 3. So if you don't know, the word or the acronym Indy is not an acronym. It just is a shortened version of the word indestructible, indestructible. And it all started when Nick's and us decided to do a completely ridiculous video. I think it was Nick's idea. They wanted to send me the most over-the-top, ridiculously built boot in the entire world, and this is what that boot was. It's so ridiculous. Just steel toe, double lineman patches, the really heavy leather. It's like 16 inches tall. Yeah, we shot it with guns. We cut it in half with the water jet channel. We just tortured this thing, and it was a really cool video. It has millions of views, and can we launch that? Like, I feel like it'd be a cool collaboration. And Nick's is like, dude, we broke like 4 of those really heavy Landis stitching needles just sewing one of the soles on. Like, our production team would absolutely kill us if we had to make more than 1 of these a year. And so that's when we went to back to the drawing board. It was like, okay, what if we made it a wearable, indestructible boot? And that's when we came up with the Indy 1. And then it launched, and everyone started getting them. They started wearing them, and you started to see all the two-toning coming out from the flesh, the undertones matching the 1964 leather, and it's still one of my most favorite boots ever. But for the next rendition, as fun as it would be just to relaunch the same boot over and over, I don't know, it doesn't bring me as much excitement and joy to just design something once. So I was like, okay, let's do some different iterations. And so after that, and the success of it, because the Indy 1 sold out in, I think like 3 days, 2 or 3 days. And so we're like, okay, that was a viable thing that we could do. Let's go back and see what we can do with the Indy 2. And I was like, all right, hear me out. Let's make it beefier. Let's make it over the top, closer to the indestructible boot. And Nick's was like, well, let's try it. We'll see how it turns out. So I asked him to make me a double lineman patch Indy 1. And it is quite the boot. It is a little bit over the top. It's a little bit unwearable, but I love it. I think it's a really fun boot. The only problem is Nick's, and especially the guys at Nick's that do all the actual hard labor on these boots, they did not want to make it. And I did not want to be the guy that was like, no, come on guys, make this boot, ruin your hands, like, please. And so double lineman patch, I like the idea. It just didn't really work in practice and in the application of making handmade boots out of like the toughest leather in the world. So then we just, Nick's grabbed an upper that was already working or already halfway done, whatever, you know what I'm trying to say. And we started talking about doing like a smaller lineman patch to make it a little bit easier to make, a little bit more scalable. And so they threw a couple lineman patches on this boot, and it was atrocious. And it was my idea, so it's not necessarily like that Nick's had this terrible idea. I'm not talking trash on them. But everything didn't line up quite well. The lines were contradicting each other. There's no flow to the design. There was no design lines in it. It just was like stuff everywhere. So didn't like that very much. Then we went to, well, then I kind of just spent some time thinking about what we could do, how could we make it different, and I stumbled across this beauty. And you might recognize this from the previous Indy launches because this is not the Indy series. This is a Hall's lineman boot, and it used to be about this tall. And we did a Anvil Builds channel video on it where we cut it down, made it a more wearable boot, removed some of the wacky stuff from the inside. So if you haven't seen that, go check out that video on Anvil Builds. It's a pretty cool video. It's really interesting to see like how you can save a really cool looking boot that's completely unwearable and make it wearable. And we're shipping these to Bennett Stitch Down because he likes these boots, and we were talking about it when I first got them, and they don't fit me, so I thought we'd send it to him. So I'll put some Stitch Down links in the description. But the thing I liked about this was that it had these double lineman patches without the toe cap, and I just think it is a gorgeous boot. It has really pretty lines going through it. You know, you look at, they're not that different, these two boots. The prototype of the Indy 2 and the Hall's boot, but it's just the lines that make the big difference. So like, how can we replicate that, steal some of those concepts and put it into an indestructible style boot? Well, that's where we ended up with the first version of the Indy 2, which is this boot, and I love this boot. So this was a lineman patch that I designed based off of this pattern and trying to pull some inspiration from this Hall's lineman boot, but still make it something practical and different. Because the idea behind this patch was, you know, most people aren't actually wearing these boots and using the lineman patch for lineman work. It's mostly just for looks and a little extra durability. So I was like, how can we spin that and make it more usable and practical for people who aren't climbing poles all day? So I was like, well, what if we just put like a little patch over their metatarsal knuckle, that really high wear spot where your toes begin, I guess is the best way to describe it. And so we designed this patch to do that. And the first version was a soft toe, and these patches were tucked a little bit further back than we wanted. And so, but the concept was there. I liked reversing the colors. We did the 1964 on the outer. The lineman patch was the brown wax flesh. And I felt like we had a good thing going here. We also did the tactical lineman patch we stole from the Nix tactical line, and I was almost happy with it. You know, it was a work in progress. So then what we did for the final version is we put a nice toe stiffener in there, and I'm not usually a fan of toe stiffeners, but you can see the difference between how slim and like pointy this made this boot look compared to this boot that gives a little bit more of a bulbous toe, a little bit more balance across the boot, in my opinion. See the difference there? Way different. Even though it's just a subtle little difference, it makes a big difference in how it looks, in my opinion. And we also had them shift alignment patches to cover those met knuckles, and it's just a beautiful boot. I love this boot, and I really wanted to do this boot over again, but in different colors and stuff. But once again, as fun as it is just to reproduce the same thing over and over, I wanted to make something new and different, exciting, make things a little bit, I don't know, I like keeping it interesting. I hate when people just like find a collab concept and they just redo the same thing over and over. It's just boring. The fun aspect for me is to design it and to try to find something that nobody's ever done before and make it in reality, make it into reality with Nix, because they're the ones that actually do all the work. I'm just the glorified designer that doesn't actually do any of the hard labor. But because the success of the Indie series, at some point, I think last year, they gave me these beauties. And this is less to do with the whole line of boots and more just because I love this boot. And I did an unboxing of this on this channel, so if you want more information about this ridiculous boot, go watch that unboxing. But this is technically the Indie C. So this would be like a one-off custom just for me. It's made out of Toscana Italia shell cordovan, and it is a marble shell, and it is beautiful. You see all the little marble. It's actually really dirty because I've been wearing them hiking and stuff, so I guess you can't really see. But it has the single lineman patch, no toe cap, the beefiest chunky outsole, and there's some issues going on with this boot that we're probably going to have to address with Rose Anvil Builds channel video, and maybe a little bit of adjustments on this thing, because it's just generally, it's so freaking heavy. They put one of the really, really heavy, like 9-iron rubber slip soles on it, and it's just as a heavy boot, and yeah, I love it. Don't get me wrong, I love it. I don't know why I'm complaining about it, because it was free and it's a cordovan boot. So that's just a step in the progress of the Indie series. Step in the progress of the process of the progress. And then we went back to the drawing boards once again for the Indie 3 for this year. And what I wanted to do initially was return back to the original Indie 1, but make it a little bit more streamlined, a little more practical, and throw in some new elements. And so Nix made me one up, and it looks like this. And it is a beautiful boot. I still really, really like this boot. But there's a couple things that just didn't excite me as much as I wanted it to. It just, I don't know, maybe it just looked too much like the Indie one. I'm not sure. It doesn't have like the big pop that I really like when I've designed something new and different and exciting. And so that's when we really changed up the Indie series and went with a different pattern for the upper. So now that you've seen the whole progression of the Indie series, I'll just try to get all these out of the way. Just for fun, we'll go through the series again. Indie 3 prototype. Indie C. Italia Toscano shell. I never know if I'm saying like the soup from Olive Garden or if that's the actual name of their tannery, so I apologize. Indie 2, the official boot. Indie 2 prototype. The Hall's lineman boot that gave the Indie 2 its lineman patches, double lineman patches. The horrendous Frankenstein catastrophe. And the Indie 1.5 double lineman patches, and the Indie 1. So now that you've seen the whole heritage and lineage and progression of the Indie series, what did we actually do, and what's the concept of the Indie 3? So the concept of the Indie 3 was to make the evolution of the Indie 1, make it lighter, more flexible, more comfortable, and choose materials in a way that isn't just the apocalypse boot when it comes to the absolute most durable everything, but make it an apocalypse boot that is a smart apocalypse boot. Like not, because, you know, technically this big bad boy would be the apocalypse boot, but I have a feeling whatever zombies or fungus monsters or whatever things chasing you in the apocalypse is gonna catch you pretty quick. So they're not actually a very good apocalypse boot. They're just completely ridiculously overbuilt. So let's open it up. I was gonna describe some of the components and stuff before, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you can't see the boot, huh? So, opening with the Skeleton tool. That's the other knife I really, really like. It's a Leatherman that's super lightweight, and it's a lot cheaper than the other Leathermans, and there's a trend in my life of having to buy cheap knives because I lose all of them all the time. Okay, let's get this lined up for the unbox. I have yet to see these at all, so I've just seen a couple pics, and these are gonna be sick. I think you guys are really gonna like them because it's very similar to the Indy one, but I think we've improved it, and it honestly might be the best looking Indy boot that we've ever done. So let's open it up. Maybe. Unboxing is so hard. You guys don't appreciate my struggle, okay? Okay, come on. There's gotta be a better way to do this. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Oh, I can't even see him. Oh, you can't either. Let's just grab one out. Oh, these things look so cool. Whoop, I'm making a mess. Wow. Okay, well, let me get this kind of laced up first. Come on, Nix, give us a good lace job here for the unboxing. Okay, got that one tied up. So, pretty different looking boot, but very reminiscent of the Indy one. Like I described, hopefully. See here, very similar, but also very different. So what do we got going on here? Well, the first thing, the leather choice, we got the brown wax flesh. I love this leather because as you beat it up, it really starts to show those red undertones and hues, which match perfectly with the 1964 leather. Did the same on this boot, so I'm not gonna scratch it up, I almost scratched it because we gotta get our B-roll before. Once it starts wearing in, it's gonna match that beautifully, and the two-toning is, I just love it. I love this leather. The next thing we did was let's maybe just start from the outsole and work our way up. So the outsole is this, I think it's the Sierra outsole that Vibram does. And it's similar to the V100 because it's a really luggy, chunky outsole. But what the thinness of this outsole allows you to do is throw on a little bit of a foam midsole throughout the entire sole construction. I like that because it gives you a little bit of squish underfoot, because Pacific Northwest boots, if you have a pair, you know, they're notoriously hard underfoot. This gives you just a little bit of extra squish. Then the next layer above that is a rubber slip sole, a nice thick rubber slip sole, because most of these heritage boots are either completely leather all the way through, or Nix has their tactical boot that's a lot of rubber all the way through. So I wanted to kind of combine the two. So I wanted to do a rubber slip sole. Usually it's leather and it's exposed to the environment, and so it can get water in it, and it can swell and shrink. It causes it to delaminate. It can it pulls the dye out, you know, but for an apocalypse boot, I thought it'd be kind of cool to throw in a rubber slip sole this time. It also makes the foam adhere to the rubber better than foam to leather, so it was nearly a necessity, because otherwise we had to do a big thick slab of leather with a slip sole underneath, which would have made it bulkier. So I wanted to just run it a little bit leaner, a little bit lighter, and just have one layer. Then if we go above that, we get to the, I guess, construction is probably next. So you'll notice the original Indy one is a 270 stitch down with a nailed heel. This is their 360 stitch down, which I really like because, once again, it helps keep some of the water out. It's all stitched. There's not nearly as many heavy nails in there. And for an apocalypse boot, you could resole this thing back together. Or for longevity, any cobbler can resole this, because all they have to do is pull off the outsole and midsole, throw a new one on there, and they don't have to touch any of the internal components. Then, if we move above that, let's go to the patterning, because this is something I really, really like. Because you'll notice the Indy 1 and all the other Indy series has been a typical boot with just a typical pattern, quarters, you know, whatever, I don't know what it's called. This boot, on the other hand, is a lace-to-toe boot. And what that means is the laces go a lot closer to the toe of the boot, which allow you to tighten it more and adjust the fit a little bit more. And it looks cool, more importantly. It has these really nice sweeping lines that are reminiscent of the alignment patch on the Indy 1, which I really liked, bringing back that swooping look to this design, because the Indy 2 is a very angular, very hard lined boot. You know, it's just very like tactical looking. So I wanted to bring back some of that flowiness of the design. And then you'll notice the heel counter is a tactical heel counter, which runs counter to that idea of like this really streamlined thing. And the thing I like about this boot is it's a contradictory boot. I like, basically from day one, I've liked the contrast, I like the juxtaposition. And so we have these really flowy lines in the lace to toe, then these hard lines that meet up nearly perfectly in the tactical alignment patch that just give it this really eye-catching look, because it's not super flowy, it's not super angular, it flows well, switching from the hard angles into the sweeping lines. Even with the lineman patch on the inside, you have a similar thing where the stitch line follows that sweeping pattern, but you have the hard angular lineman patch. I love it. Because I love the little design aesthetics behind everything, and it's this one turned out so perfectly. And we talked about doing a lace to toe last year for the Indy 2, and but I was really set on doing the double lineman patch and making it look beefy that way. And the other issue with alignment or the lace to toe is if you did double lineman patches, you'd have a ton of leather going on, because these lace to toes are a double vamp. So it's essentially like a toe cap, like on the Indy 1, but it's brought all the way back and to the heel counter. So you have a double layer of leather all the way through the vamp of the boot. Typical 8-inch height, brass eyelets. You're gonna probably get the rose Anvil Kiltie. I'll probably send you a fringe and a no-show. So then if we go to the inside of the boot, as far as I understand, and during the talking about the design of this boot, it's unlined in the toe, because I wanted the durability and the extra protection of the lace to toe without bringing a lot of extra bulk in by having another lining, because at the lineman patch, you'd have the lineman patch, the outer vamp, the inner vamp, and a lining, which would be 4 layers. And since I want to do a lighter version, I didn't want the lining in there. And so there's no lining in there. And like I said, we kind of modeled it after the tactical boot, because I liked the idea of some of the wear protection, the waterproofness, and the more modern lasting materials, but I also really wanted that footprint you only get from these really high-end boots, because they have so much leather on the inside and it's so thick, it compresses the shape of your foot, giving you the perfect footprint inside of your boot. Makes them so comfortable, just like this, in this White's Drifter collab. And so to do that, instead of doing the rubber insole, like in the tactical boots, we did the leather insole with the sock liner. And so that's where this boot gets really interesting, because Nix has never done that before, doing the half tactical, half traditional rubber midsole, leather insole, and I love it. It's so fun. I like, because I just like doing things different too. Like just that fact that no one's done it before, it's fun to do. And it's not like the lace to toe is it's pretty common to have a lineman patch on it. And usually the lineman patch is a little bit further back. But with this one, we wanted to cover that met knuckle. We moved it a little bit farther forward. And you'll notice that the shape of the boot is quite a bit different than like the less worn Indy 2 prototype. And that's because the Indy 3 is built on the new Thermin last that Nix has, which is basically a Munson last. And I love the Munson last. It's probably my favorite last, because it's a historical last. It was designed before World War II to make the most universal and ergonomic fit possible in a boot for war. And it still remains a very popular last and a very comfortable last, because it's not designed for the look. It's not supposed to be pointy, and it's not supposed to like be at all for looks. It's all for function. And so I love function first design, and so putting this on the Munson, it does kind of make it like a little bit bulbous and a little bit like wide, but I'd way rather have a wide boot that nobody actually notices from the side and only you notice from the top than a really pointy boot that's uncomfortable. And the beautiful aspect of this lineman patch is it really disguises how wide this looks. Because it sneaks so far up the side and towards the toe, it kind of shades how wide it is. And I think it turned out perfectly. Yeah, I really like this boot. I'm not ready to say it's my favorite Indy series boot, but I like it a lot. Yeah, I guess the overall design theory of this for me was juxtaposition. Hard lines meet smooth lines, synthetic materials meet natural materials, soft meets really durable, squishy meets stable. I wanted it to be a juxtaposed boot in every way that is the apocalypse boot. And not like, you know, there's things you could point to make it more durable, but I think this balances the durability, the lightweightness, and the agility and all the other random words I can throw in here to make it seem like it's an apocalypse boot. Because it's just a theory, you know, it's just like a design theory. It's just for fun. Ultimately, this is a very durable, good looking, and wearable boot, but it's just more fun when you have that design aesthetic. And that juxtaposition has always been in basically everything we do. Literally the brand name Rose Anvil is all about juxtaposing things. The softness of a rose, the hard grittiness of an anvil, combining the two. I've always just loved that. And so that's what we try to do with this boot, because you have that smooth lace to toe that meets the lineman patch that's angular. You've got the tactical counter cover that's really angular that meets that really smooth lace to toe. So now let's try these on. Let's try these on. I'll try to get you a little bit more light so you can see what's going on. Do you want to do left foot or right foot? Probably, well, you want to see the lineman patch, so let's do left foot. Yeah. And I've never worn one of these Munson lasts, so hopefully this fits, because if not, that would be a huge bummer. Okay, here we go. Oh, you can't even see it. That's that sound you want. Shook. I feel like that's probably a pretty good fit. It's hard to say because it's so many layers of leather. It's tough to feel how it actually fits. But I think that's pretty freaking close. Oops. I don't know how to tie shoes and boots. Oh yeah. That looks cool. If I can get it on screen. Yes. Yeah, that's pretty cool. We'll put some B-roll shots of some outfits over top too. This is so hard. I'm trying to get you guys some good angles of these. Okay, so get on the email list. It drops on the 30th. Early access the day before. And thank you guys for supporting these collabs, because it's probably my most favorite thing to do with all this and all the channels is being able to go to these brands and be like, hey, what if we made the most ridiculous stuff in the entire world? And they're like, yeah, okay, yeah, let's try it. And Nick's has been especially good at just hearing me out and let me design the wackiest stuff. So thank you guys for supporting these collabs or collabs. People get so mad when I say collabs. And thanks for everything you guys do, supporting everything we do with the Rose Anvil channel, the Rose Anvil 2, Rose Anvil builds, all the products that we make, the collabs. So thank you guys. See ya.